Hello all, I'm back here with my 2016 Ford Transit van. As you can see, I now have a floor. If you haven't seen my previous videos, this van, it's a 2016 Ford Transit XLT 15 passenger van. I basically wanted to convert it into a camper, but I wanted to keep at least 2 rows of seats in case I wanted, to bring passengers with me somewhere, and they would have, legal seat belts. And legal seats bolted to the floor. So I decided to keep 2 of the seat rails in, and then I kind of had to build the floor around those. So in terms of laying down the floor, by far the most difficult part was cutting the pieces to accommodate those holes in the floor, as you can see where I have the floor rail still in there. So what I did was I cut the plywood down. I cut the plywood in the squares for these holes, and then I went out and got they have like aluminum bars at Home Depot, and then I cut them out to size and just basically fit them in there to kind of fabricate some sort of track, and then tried to cut the vinyl perfectly around that, and it actually came out pretty good, I think. So again, it's kind of cleaner look. Then have the metal rails in here. Eventually, when I do take, when I do go camping and take the seats out, I'm gonna have some sort of cover that goes in here, sits on these tracks, that's flush with the floor, so I can walk over it without an issue. In terms of the flooring itself, I went with this Stainmaster luxury vinyl. Got it at Lowe's. It's actually pretty easy to install, but again, just the amount of cuts I had to do, taking into consideration these holes I cut out. The one piece of advice I do have is don't try to cut this with just a regular razor knife. I actually sliced my finger pretty good. After I did that, I used the jigsaw, and that worked perfectly. So if you're doing a van conversion, if you don't have a jigsaw, I definitely suggest getting one. And again, you can cut this vinyl flooring with a jigsaw, and it works pretty well. So now I'm left with again, kind of where the factory trim pieces go, and I do still have those, so I'm gonna plan on basically putting these in where they were. The one issue is because I insulated the floor is now higher than it used to be. So I don't know if you can see that. It used to be on all these trim pieces. And again, it fit down with the factory floor, but because my floor is thicker now, it wouldn't work. So what I had to do, as you can see, I cut down this so it's completely flush with the new floor, which was an extreme pain. So I don't know if I would do it again, but once I got started, I just figured I'd finish. I basically took a Dremel tool, went all the way around, and cut out all that plastic. I did that in all the trim pieces, so they should fit. Basically, just like that, flush with the floor. But again, because it's a little thicker, as you can see, you can kind of still see some of the wood down there. So I'm gonna have to figure out kind of how to make that look nice. But again, the rear heater, as you can see, I rerouted it, the ductwork, and just basically cut holes. So I can still use the rear heat. I'm gonna put a bench seat back here, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to kind of run it up and then out the side of the bench seat. But yep, so far I think it came out good. The next step is to figure out what I want to do with the ceiling. I actually put the factory trim pieces back on, and I was going back and forth debating what to put on the walls. I was going to use 1/2-inch plywood, but after putting these back on, I think I might actually just keep these, and then, just do figure out how to do something with the ceiling, like wood planks or something like that. In terms of the wall coverings, I think I might just integrate these. Now, since the floor is 1.5 inches higher, any trim piece that sits flush with the floor, I had to cut down. So right here, I actually had to cut this trim piece, I think it was 1.5 inches, so it would fit, which actually wasn't an issue. Again, I used my jigsaw. I think I used my radial arm saw, a couple cuts, but that actually wasn't an issue. So, but no, I think it actually looks pretty good. And I'm going to keep the wall pieces and then work and kind of integrate some of the electronics I want to put in right into the factory trim pieces.